you do something so many times, your body now knows how to do it better than your conscious mind. Now it becomes a subconscious program. So that's 95% of who we are. So the process of change then requires that we become conscious of our unconscious self, so conscious of those hardwired thoughts, those automatic habituations and those emotional reactions and conditionings, so conscious that we don't go unconscious and return to that same personality, because the disease and the gene expression and the biology will stay the same. If we can change that and sustain it and begin to fire and wire new thoughts and begin to rehearse new ways of being in our mind and begin to teach our body emotionally what a future event will feel like before it happens. If the environment signals the gene according to epigenetics and the end product of an experience in the environment is an emotion, could we signal genes ahead of the environment? Is that what these people did? And is that what I did? So I did my best to demystify the process and use it on people to see how if they could change. And for the first couple of years, not a whole lot happened. I mean, people felt better at the end of a workshop. And then after a couple of years, we started seeing people step out of wheelchairs, and we started seeing people, cancers go into remission right in a weekend event. And that's when I knew that I had to start measuring. And that's when I knew I had to really look to see what was going on in the brains of these people. So I assembled a team of scientists and researchers. We've measured over 12,000 brains now, maybe even more than that. And I wanted to see people's brains before they came to an event, put them through the rigor of transformation, keep them in the same environment, give them the right information, have them understand what they're doing, understand why they're doing it, use science as the language to demystify the process so the how gets easier, and assign meaning to it. And if you can put intention and meaning behind it, could we get better results? And so we want to also scan brains in real time. I wanted to see your brain, Glenn's brain, in a meditation when he is either overthinking and overanalyzing, or he's learning how to suppress his analytical mind and get into the operating system where those subconscious programs exist. And the word meditation, really one of the important elements is to teach people how to self-regulate and create more coherence and change their brain waves so they can really begin to reprogram themselves. And it means to become familiar with, to become so conscious of the old self that you don't go unconscious to it, and so familiar with a new self that you become that person. And so we started measuring heart rate variability, and we wanted to see when a person's frustrated, impatient, resentful, their brain waves get a little bit aroused and their heartbeat's out of order, and now they're out of balance. Their physical and mental health is off. And that in that state, when we're incoherent, biologically we're incoherent in our mental health state. So is there a way to create more health and more balance? And we came up with an understanding after looking at thousands of brain scans and a lot of HRV measurements that there's a way to actually teach people how to do that. And you don't have to be a mystic, you don't have to be a saint, you don't have to be a yogi. You could just learn the formula and what kind of effects would it require. So then we started measuring gene expression, and we saw that in 4 days people could change their gene expression. In 4 days they could make genes, activate genes that make new neurons in their brain, not make new connections, but new neurons. Genes that promote, oxidative balance, genes that strengthen the immune system, genes that activate stem cells that go to damaged tissues and repair them. These are all fundamentally important genes for health. And didn't matter what you eat, didn't matter what you drink, didn't matter what you did. It's just somehow if you came and you did it, what you believed in, this color of your skin, where you're from, none of that mattered. And so then we started measuring immune regulation. If you trade fear, if you trade pain, if you trade anger and aggression for an elevated emotion, and teach people how to sustain that state, will their immune system get stronger? And we saw that people can strengthen their immune system dramatically in a very short amount of time. We measured telomere lengths. Is it possible then to lengthen your life when your body's in balance? And telomeres determine your biological age. And lo and behold, 75% of the people in the study lengthened their telomeres in 60 days. They changed their life. They changed their future. They extended their life in some way. And so I got super hopeful about this. And then we started, I wrote 4 books, and what came along with that, Glenn, that was so exciting was the testimony. Nothing like seeing a person stand on the stage that came to the event in a wheelchair and is standing on the stage in front of an audience of 1,500 people as the example of truth and can walk normally. Nothing like a person with Parkinson's disease who has severe pain and tremors and can't walk, and a frozen face, smiling and holding their hand out with no tremors. It's nothing like seeing a person with stage 4 cancer that was at a previous week-long event that showed up a month later at the next week-long event with her scans to show that she had metastatic cancer spread throughout her entire body. And then all of a sudden the PET scan shows it's gone. Not there any longer. Zero. Nothing. Blind people seeing, deaf people hearing. And it got crazy. And so we have evidence in our scientific studies, and we have evidence in our testimony, and evidence becomes the loudest voice. And it's the magic number when we have somebody who is the example of truth stand in front of an audience and they look like a normal person. They don't look like a movie star, or they're not young and buffed and fit and look a certain way. They're just an average person. Mm-hmm. And they tell their story and it's not glamorous, but they're triumphant, and they kept overcoming, and they kept showing up for themselves and kept believing in themselves. That's the 4-minute mile. That's that person that pierces a level of consciousness that says it's possible. Not only is it a footprint in the field, quantum field, but it's also evidence in 3-dimensional reality, and people lean in. And this is the cool part. They lean in because there's truth looking them right in the face. And they'll say, if that person can do it, I can do it too. And just like an infection spreads amongst the community and creates disease, health and wellness becomes as infectious as disease. In our events, we see people. I just watched a testimonial yesterday of a guy who came in a wheelchair. I mean, he couldn't walk. He couldn't take more than a few steps. Very debilitating neurodegenerative disease. He leaves the event, he leaves his wheelchair and his walker, and it's not the first person that happens. So that's evidence, you know. So then we started partnering with universities, and we said, okay, some of these people are having dramatic changes in their hearts, in their brains. And we started working with universities that have the sophisticated instrumentation to measure cellular biology. Thousands and thousands of metabolic reactions that are taking place, and looking at the plasma and blood of people that do meditation. We started seeing then, when we subjected their blood to like a virus that behaves exactly like the COVID virus, that their body was immune to the virus. The advanced meditators, it wouldn't enter the cell. And this is super compelling data, because that says that there's something within us that really has a profound immunity to the environment. And we've isolated now the factors in the blood of advanced meditators that are so important for that. And then we started taking the advanced meditators' blood and subjecting it to cancer cells, the uterine cancer cells, and seeing how the mitochondria, which are the engines of the cells that keep the cancer cell almost immortal, drive the energy out of the mitochondria by 75%. Took the wind out of the sails of cancer cells. We see people that have, we take advanced meditators' blood and we subject it to people with neurons that have Alzheimer's. And all of a sudden you see the gene downregulated. So there's something in the plasma that makes us very hopeful about human potential. And the real key element, the most important element, is it's not anything out there that's going to do it. It's all in here. And so I'm super hopeful, super excited about some of the stuff we're doing. I just was on the phone with one of our researchers beforehand here, and before I got on this podcast. And this is a very empirical, well-published scientist that is so incredibly excited about what we're doing. So we have been on such an amazing journey. So then when that door opens and their eyes are closed and they're not getting information from the environment, not from the TV, and you teach them how to tune into frequency and energy, and frequency carries information, and they're in theta, and the brain starts to process in latent systems that energy and that frequency and transduces it into a mystical, profound experience in imagery. The arousal that takes place in the brain is gamma. They're having a very full-on sensory experience, but not with their senses. In other words, whatever's going on, It's more real than you and I sitting here, right? So imagine if your senses were heightened right now by 50%. Everything you're seeing, hearing, smelling, your awareness of the environment would be heightened, right? Awareness is consciousness. Yeah. So now we see these coherent alpha patterns lead to these coherent theta patterns, and these waves are so orderly that that wave of theta is a carrier wave. And then here comes gamma. That energy just bursts up into the brain from the body, the gates open up, and the arousal is not fear. The arousal is not pain. The arousal is not aggression and anger. The arousal is ecstasy. But here's the deal. This is alpha. If we had 100 people in the room and we were doing this, pretty easy to clap like this, right? That's coherence. We're rhythm, and that's good. Then if we went in to theta, it would be a lot slower, right? There's very little neocortical activity, so it's easy to create coherence there. But when you go to gamma, it's like this. Now try to imagine everybody, 100 people doing that. This is how orderly the neurons in your brain are. They're clapping so fast and they're all in rhythm. So how would you describe that kind of orderliness except bliss? How would you describe wholeness? What is it? I don't know, love, whatever that is. That arousal is so outside of normal. It's not a little bit of gamma. It's not a lot of gamma. It's not a lot of gamma. It's a supernatural amount of gamma. It's way outside of normal. Now that person is touching the divine. That person is touching that unified field. Their consciousness is merging with the consciousness of the unified field. There's no separation. They are connected, and the arousal, the interaction with that energy, they're taking something with them. Yeah. And sometimes there's a biological upgrade. There's the eczema, it's gone. There's the Parkinson's, it's gone. There's the blindness, it's gone. There's the deafness, it's gone. There's the stage 4 cancer, it's gone. It's an immediate biological upgrade. Now, the energy now, to finish this, is not in the neocortex. Lights are out here. You're gone. Lewis is gone. There's no longer an identity called Lewis. The inner world is profoundly real, and the autonomic nervous system, the midbrain, the limbic brain, that's controlling all your automatic functions. When you're in stress, that autonomic nervous system is dysregulated. It's out of balance. Now you're getting so much order, so much rhythm. That autonomic nervous system's touching every single cell in your body, every tissue, every organ, every system, and it's jiggling the cells, and the cells are getting new information coherently. And so you see the person get a biological upgrade. Now, you can only talk around this. You have to have the experience, but people who have the experience will have the biggest smile on their face because they'll realize it was always available to them. So the fundamental question is it worth it? That's the real question. Because if you're willing to make those changes every day before you start your day, and you have this kind of arousal coming from within you, I guarantee you won't be looking in your outer environment to find those feelings. You'll be looking within you.
Creating inside, yeah.
And so in stress and in survival, most of your attention is out there. When you leave a week-long event, something amazing happens. You're paying more attention in here. You're paying as much attention in here as you are out here. You're not so seduced, right? So then, as you begin to become, you know how to get beyond your body, your environment, and time. The formula is, the moment you dissociate from everything known, the moment you dissociate from everything material, the moment you can relax into the present moment and the brain starts to synchronize, is the moment you become pure consciousness and you are in the present moment. You're in the door to the quantum field and the brain gets highly organized. Okay, so now we have a coherent brain, and the coherence in the brain starts to resonate with different frequencies in the field, and when there's an octave, when there's a harmonic, the brain starts processing information, right? But they're suggestible, not from out there, but from the field. That's frequency. But the brain has to be coherent to pick up the rhythm, the frequency.
Right.
If you're incoherent, you got static. In other words, you got no Wi-Fi signal. You're a piece of matter with no field, right? So then that sends the signal out, coherent brain.
But what's going to draw the experience back? Our heart, right? So then we practice then every day, cultivating the emotions and being able to sustain heart coherence. Now you combine those two, and we have beautiful, beautiful brain scans and heart scans to show the dance between the two. And now you got this kind of, your heart is speaking to you. I don't know how else to say it. You're not getting information from the news, which is, you're not getting information from your Facebook, you're not getting information from your cell phone. That information is just equal to what you're willing to believe. But when your heart speaks to you because there's a resonance between the two, it's going to tell you exactly what's right for Lewis. And it's not going to be what anybody else tells you. You're going to know. So that means then when you're in certain situations and something doesn't feel right because your heart is tuned, you know, the brain thinks, but the heart knows. And so when you start getting in this compass, when you start navigating here, when you start practicing this and you start feeling, you are going to see the world through another lens. So then back to your question. If by chance I'm knocked out of balance, I will know right away, oh, I lost the feeling. So then in the beginning it may take longer, but as you start evolving your experience every day, you want to get better at being able to, a great day for me is that when I am locked in and no person, no circumstance, no condition in my life is moving from the emotions of my future. And it could be challenging and hard, and I'm willing to go the distance because the next day there's always a little magic. Like I've earned the right for the experience now. I've been initiated and I overcame some of those things, and I will see them as having less control over me. So that means then when the synchronicities happen, when the serendipities happen, when the opportunities show up, I'm no longer believing that I'm the victim of my life. All of a sudden I become more aware that I'm the creator of my life, right? And so then I respond less to the environmental circumstances, and if I respond less, then the environment no longer weakens me. And if I'm no longer weakened by my environment, then I would be immune to my environment. But here's the weird thing. The weird thing is that people are no longer creating material things. This is weird. They don't want, you think that you want them, right? But when you start doing this work and you start-
You don't need it.
You're just happy. Imagine being so happy with you that you don't want to be anybody else.
And you don't need anything to make you feel better.
You don't need anything else. You're just really cool with everything, right? I mean, that's a good place to be. And when you no longer want, you're no longer trying to control your life or predict it, wow, the game changes a little bit.